Coraline is an iconic character that starts her movie exploring her new home, going from room to room, seeing what her new house has in store for her. And now the curiosity of Coraline goes extremely nicely with the room mechanic introduced in Dustmourn. Rooms are enchantments that have two different sides with two different mana cost and two different abilities. Whenever you cast a room, you get to pay the cost of one side, and you get to unlock that side as it enters the battlefield. And now once a room is on the battlefield, at sorcery speed, you may pay the mana cost of the other side to unlock it, making both abilities of the room card active. You can also pay to lock an already open room, but we'll get into that later. And now while having these rooms that go along with Coraline's curiosity is nice, this would be nothing without a good commander. And luckily for us, Wizards printed the perfect Coraline stand-in, Marina Vendrell. Marina is all 5 colors, and whenever she enters, we get to look at the top 7 cards of our library and put all enchantment cards into our hand, and the rest on the bottom of our library in a random order. She also has another ability where at sorcery speed, we can tap her to lock or unlock a room we control. Marina's enter ability is extremely good whenever it comes to room cards. Rooms are enchantments, so off of her enter ability, any ones that we draw off of the top 7, we can put directly into our hand. I also really like Marina's second ability whenever it comes to our Coraline theme. Whenever she unlocks or locks doors by tapping her, it can be seen as Coraline moving from room to room in the home or even the other world. And now moving away from the beginning of the movie, the iconic tunnel scene of Coraline moving into the other world can be depicted through a great card from Dustmourn, Vagovov's Lair. The Lair is a enchantment land, which means that we'll be able to put it into our hand from Marina's first ability, and it even gives us some great mana fixing. And now let's go into some of the room cards that we're going to be having in this deck. Most rooms can be simplified into one side having a decent effect for a lower mana cost, and the other side having a good effect for a higher mana cost. And now with Marina though, we can pretty much ignore that higher mana cost entirely. What I mean is that we could cast Roaring Furnace for 1 in a red, and then we could tap Marina and unlock Steaming Sauna for no mana, meaning that we get a 5 mana effect for free. This is the case for a lot of the rooms that we want in our deck, where we get to cast the cheaper side with the hopes of getting the other side for free off of tapping Marina. Now another way I like to depict Coraline's curiosity with this deck is the amount of card draw in it. Most Enchantress decks already center heavily on drawing cards off of enchantments entering, and this ties in perfectly into Coraline's story. Cards like Sithis and Enchantress Presence let us draw cards off of enchantments entering, and I like to see their abilities as Coraline finding knowledge and info around the house or through the other world while she's exploring. And now while rooms are important to this deck, I would really focus on putting good enchantment cards in over mediocre rooms. I would much rather have Mystic Remora or Wizard class over a room with no synergy with our deck. But that begs the question of what is the deck's plan? Coraline is a character, as stated before, with a lot of curiosity, but also has a lot of wit and cleverness, which in my opinion fits a deck centered around comboing out. And now for this deck, our main combo is to deal damage off of enchantments entering the battlefield, and that comes in 3 steps. First, we need cards that turn all of our permanents into enchantments. Second, we need cards that deal damage to our opponents off of creatures or enchantments entering the battlefield under our control. And third, we need cards that make tokens off of enchantments entering the battlefield. And now for our first step. Enchanted Evening and Secret Arcade are 2 cards that let us achieve this effect. These cards make it to where all enchantments that we control, and for Enchanted Evening, even our opponent's permanents, are now enchantments in addition to their other types. On to the second step, we need to find cards that deal damage off of creatures entering the battlefield. War Leader's Call and Impact Tremors deal 1 damage to each opponent off of a creature entering, and Grim Guardian does the same whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, which for this combo will still work. These are the cards with our combo that allow us to win the game. The final piece of this combo is making this damage go infinite. Our last step looks to do that, which is getting cards that make creature tokens off of enchantments entering the battlefield. Gremlin Tamer and Archon of Sun's Grace do this for us, making a token creature whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under our control. Now my favorite card for this step is Ghostly Dancer, which I think represents the ghost children from Coraline perfectly, helping with Marina's combo much like how they helped Coraline realize the other world wasn't so friendly. So now that we have all of the pieces to the combo, how does it work? Let's take 1 card from each step. Let's say that we have Impact Tremors and Enchanted Evening on the battlefield. Then we cast Ghostly Dancers. First, every opponent's going to take 1 damage off of Impact Tremors due to a creature entering the battlefield. Then, our combo starts. Enchanted Evening makes Ghostly Dancers an enchantment in addition to being a creature, which means that it's going to trigger its own ability, making a 3/1 white spirit token. And now whenever this new creature token enters, Impact Tremor is going to deal another 1 damage to each opponent again. And now that token that just entered is also an enchantment due to Enchanted Evening, which is going to re-trigger Ghostly Dancer's ability again. From here, we get to make infinite tokens and deal infinite damage off of Impact Tremors to every opponent until we win the game. And now for a major disclaimer, this combo cannot be stopped, which matters due to the fact that the ordering of this combo matters immensely. Let's say that we started this process over, but Impact Tremors was not on the battlefield. When Ghostly Dancers enters, we would still make infinite tokens, but since we can't stop it and we can't kill our opponents with it, the game will end in a draw. For an infinite combo to allow us to win and not end in a draw, it has to kill our opponents, much like the Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond combo. This means that we need to have a card from step 2 on the battlefield before we play both of the other steps. And now that we know the main win con of our deck, let's go over the main weakness of it. And that's the limited amount of cards that we have for our combo. Less than 10% of this deck is actually cards that we can use for our combo, and I think that there's a lot more creative ways than just throwing in a bunch of tutors to find them. The first way of doing this I already mentioned, and that's having a lot of pieces that draw cards off of enchantments entering the battlefield. If we can get 2 or 3 of these effects onto the battlefield, we can start digging through our deck insanely fast. But this isn't the best way that we have of finding our combo pieces. Blinking Morena actually is. Blinking is an effect where we exile one of our creatures and then we get to return it to the battlefield, which causes their entering abilities to trigger again. Take Cloud Shift and Ephemerate for example. If we cast these on Morena, we would get to look at the top 7 cards of our library again and put all enchantments into our hand. If we do this 1 or 2 times, that means that throughout the game we would get to look at the top 20 or 30 cards of our library, where we are sure to find 1 or 2 of our combo pieces. And now I really like cards that give us a repeatable blinking effect, which are Thassa Deep Dwelling and Teleportation Circle. These are cards that allow us to blink Morena at every end step, which allows us to get more and more enchantments into our hand every turn. We can also throw in another Coraline reference with blinking, with the cat being Feldark Guardian. Like how in the movies it helps Coraline, it can help us find our combo piece by digging through our deck. And now let's get into the final goal of this deck, and that's casting Morena as fast as possible. Being all 5 colors, having cards that mana fix us like Chromatic Lantern and Dryad of Island Grove really help us make sure that our lands can tap for all of the colors that we need. And now similar effects like Utopia Sprawl and Fertile Ground let us attach them to a land and get an extra color of our choice that we need. And now also green ramp staples are an auto include here, making sure that we can get lands out fast. And now for some more expensive options for ramp, Burgeoning and Exploration are excellent ways of making sure that we can get multiple lands out at a time. Burgeoning letting us put a land from our hand onto the battlefield whenever one of our opponents does, and Exploration letting us play 2 lands per turn. And now getting into a lot of the expensive cards that you can throw in this deck, obviously staples like Rhystic Study and Smothering Tithe can be really good in this deck, really helping us with our card draw and with creating treasure tokens. I also like throwing in a lot of mana doublers like Mirari's Wake and Mana Reflection, which helps us get a lot of mana early to either cast our enchantments or to cast Morena. And through my own personal playing, I'm able to get a lot of mana quickly, so I really like the card Omniscience in this deck as an alternate win con. Omniscience lets us cast spells from our hand without paying their mana cost, which can be really helpful just casting stuff for free. If we're able to get 1 or 2 permanents that lets us draw a card off of an enchantment entering the battlefield, Omniscience can really let us just draw through our deck and play stuff for free until we get our combo and win. Coraline is a fantastic character that I know a lot of people love, and I'm really happy that Magic finally gave a commander that I could make a themed deck around. Now I really hope that you guys found this video as fun as I did, and maybe you could leave a comment on what cards you think would work well in a Coraline deck. And now my own personal deck list is in the description below if anyone's interested to check it out. But until next time, see ya.